So you still in Nashville?
I am in Nashville currently.
Or
We
you feel
just
sick?
finished up the job today.
You feel sick or you
Yes.
okay?
Uh, yeah, it's either sick or allergies. I don't know which.
Okay. All right. So let us start then. So how you doing, William? How were your patient?
It's good. Yeah.
Yes.
It's a good day. Got to do a couple new treatments today. Used my laser to take a mole off of someone's back, and also used the laser to kill nail fungus.
Really? Wow. Oh, you have the laser to kill the fungus?
Hmm.
Wow. Okay. Is it more effective than the medicine?
The medicine is about the topical is about 18% effective. Yeah. So the laser, my understanding, I got to look more closely into the research, but how it's been presented to me secondhand, not directly from the research, that
Mm-hmm.
it's more effective. Yeah.
So the laser more effective than the medicine?
Yes, that's my understanding. Yes.
Oh, really? Okay. All right. Let's just move on to our discussion today. So last time we talked about the uh, the pure nature, right? Let me see here. So I don't know whether we talk about the story. One layman came up to the master and asked whether the dog has the Buddha nature or not. The master say yes, but the second man came up and asked the same question, but the Zen master say no. Did we talk about that, William?
I think we have. It's
Mm-hmm.
possible we didn't, but I've heard that story a few
Mm-hmm.
times, so my mind may just think it was we talked about it, but I'm familiar with that one.
Ivan, we talked about that in the last one when you came to the temple, right? Right,
Yeah,
Ivan? Mm-hmm.
the the idea that uh, consciousness is a feature of humanity or humans.
Actually, it's not here. This is the way. The reason why with the same question, but the Zen master reply into different way. So the first guy he
Oh,
asked whether the dog has Buddha nature or not. The Zen master say yes, but the second guy asked the same question. He say no. The reason why he say yes at first and say no later is that yes, he say every sentient being, including dog, has Buddha nature. But the second guy asked him the same question. He say no. He say no because even the dog has Buddha nature, but he could not recognize us. That's why he say no. It makes sense now, William?
yeah.
Yeah, even we have Buddha nature, but if we don't recognize, that means we could not recognize our Buddha nature at all. Hmm. It's there, but whether we accept or recognize or not is up to us. And Ivan, last time we talked about, you know, in the Theravada tradition, it mentioned that you need to recognize the non-self principle because in Buddhist view, the cell is just the components of the five aggregates, the physical body, the feeling, the perception, meaning the thinking, the mental formation, that's mean mental habitual patterns, and the last one, the consciousness. So there's no real self in the Theravada tradition, and even Mahayana tradition too. But in the Mahayana approach, it go one step further. That even there's no real self, but they are real, a permanent true mind of substance is by nature pure and bright. That's another step to explain why we have Buddha nature, a pure nature. what we call the Buddha nature there. Mason, Ivan? Yeah. William, we talked about that last time, right?
Yes.
Hmm. And that's why it say that the Buddha is saying because they rely upon the full thinking, that's mean our thinking. That's why we revolve in that type of cycle of rebirth. You understand that, Ivan? You know why? Why our thinking made us to revolve in this cycle of rebirth. You know why? No, William, can you elaborate, please?
Yes. Um, the 12 linked conditions, or the law of dependent origination, I think is the best explanation of that, where because we're ignorant, that we create karma. So we take actions out of ignorance, and in the course of that, we have this false notion of self arises, basically through the interplay of things and mind. So that there's something which is perceiving and something which is being perceived, and there's an appearance then of a separation of self and a duality, and then there are certain things which we contact, certain senses that we prefer, that we find pleasant, other ones we find unpleasant, and that kind of reinforces this sense of self, and then we try to go after those pleasant things and avoid those unpleasant things, and then ultimately we become attached to those pleasant things, and we want them, we want more of them, and that desire for those things conditions birth, and then if we're born, then we're gonna get old and we're gonna die, and so we're gonna suffer over that. So it basically it kind of is around the illusion of a separate self, which the thinking that as we like perceive our situation, we all like unconsciously conclude this idea of a self, which then is the source of selfish desire and suffering.
Yeah, but the question here is that why our thinking bring us to the cycle of the birth. Our thinking, our movement, I mean that current thinking. Let's say we sit in here, we think about our job, our spouse, our family members, our education, and so forth and so forth. The Buddha say that those thinking lead us to this cycle of the birth. Why is that?
Well, I think all of our thinking is sort of the tip of an iceberg. There are these kind of massive conceptualizations that underpin our thinking. There are a lot of assumptions that we make about reality out of ignorance. So kind of almost anything we think, if we think what we're thinking is true in an ultimate sense, then we're like we're confused in a way by totally trusting our thoughts. There are some thoughts that can help lead to liberation, and there are some thoughts that are going to lead to more obscuration, more difficulty, more confusion. But generally, we're thinking that this is me, this is my body. I want these things. I don't want those things, and so I need to get these things so that I can be happy. So that basically, yeah, I need to get these things so that I can be happy. And so then I would think we become attached to these pleasant things, and then we want more of them, because I don't know, I'm kind of saying the same thing I said before. So I think I'm missing something in the answer.
Yeah, Ivan, You understand? You
Um,
follow? What do you
I
think?
I follow. Um, Thinking it's connected with reincarnation or the turning of the wheel, the samsara. Um, I would say it's connected because Buddha nature, the true mind, is sinner, and to be sinner is to be, but to think is to push your nature or your consciousness away from your sinner. Your your intention goes with that thought, and the more you can center into that true mind, you can then break the circle of the samsara, the wheel, and be centered and true mind into that Buddha nature.
Hmm.
And that the true nature supersedes thought.
Hmm. Hmm. Let me tell this Zen story. I love Zen story. There is Zen master. He's was that the national advisor in China, and one day he met an arhat that came from India. So both them walk around the palace of the king, and they walk. Uh, they cross a bridge. A bridge doesn't mean that underneath is the water, but you know they can make a brick for people to walk in, and below in the palace of the king and emperor, all kind of the court uh, woman, they did a performance, and while they were standing there, the national counselor and the arhat there, they stare down, they look down from the brick, and of course they saw the performance down there. So the arhat, he told the Zen master, who is the national counselor, saying that you are a national counselor. How could you enjoy the performance of the monkeys? And so the Zen master smiled for a while, and he turned around and asked the arhat, say, "What did you see? Have you seen anything more?" And at that moment, the arhat couldn't see anymore. You follow the story? You follow the story, William?
Just the last part, the when the arhat couldn't see anymore, what did the Zen master say?
Oh, okay. The Zen master say, actually, he admonished the arhat. Wow, before you saw me, seeing them to do the performance, but now you're so dumb, you could not read my mind. You follow now?
Yes.
You understand now, right? What's mean?
Yeah.
What's mean?
Right. Right, because the arhats can read minds, but in this case, the Zen master's mind was beyond the arhat's realization. And
Mhm.
so the arhat had a conceptualization of where the Zen master was, but it wasn't a direct perception of where he was.
Mm.
Because like like Ivan referred to, I thought there's a really concise way to explain it, but there's this difference between relating to a conceptualization. So the arhat was judging, basically was saying this is these are monkeys. He was putting these people down. He was adding something to what was happening.
Okay.
Whereas a Zen master will tend to be present with what is without adding to it, without thinking about it, but simply being present.
Mm.
So I think that's the distinction that was being drawn.
Ivan, you understand the story? What do you understand about?
Right. I I do understand. I like this story a lot. This idea of being and passively seeing or perceiving
Mm-hmm.
versus projecting. Because if you're projecting, you're casting your own net of eighth level consciousness of your samsara, your wheel, your karma, all of it, instead of being.
Actually, in order to be arhat, they have to keep the pure mind. They don't have any kind of conceptual thought at all. So the first time when the arhat told the Zen master that how could you be a Zen master or a national counselor, but you still watching the monkey performance? So again, the moment I put this way, arhat can read people mind because his mind is so pure. And like uh that if we put this way, if we stand still, we can see people walk back and forth. Um, so basically, for the arhat, they could read people mind. So the first time when they stood on the bridge and looked down to the female performance there, so the arhat could read the mind of the master, the Zen master, and then at that moment, the mind of the Zen master look at those performance. So in the mind of the arhat, regardless things, uh, whether people performance or not, uh, that's that's a true rule. That's just not the business of Buddhist monk, especially for the Zen master, especially for the national counselor. So that's why he complained. You are the Zen master, you are the national council. How could you watch this type of performance? Because in Buddhist view, in the Theravada tradition, that even the common monk not supposed to watch the performance. You understand, William? So he
Mhm.
complained. He complained to the Zen master. You're a national master. You're supposed to be a teacher, a master of most of the Buddhist monks in the country. But how could you still watch the performance? Because against the rules of the monk. You understand that? That's the first instance. And
Yes.
the second instance, later on, the Zen master turned around and asked, what do you see now? And the arhat, he said, could not see anymore. And so that's why the Zen master admonished him, before you could read my mind. That but now you so dumb, you could not recognize me. Just mean at that moment, the moment that Zen master let go of all the thoughts, the arhat could not see anything in his mind, in the Zen master mind. You understand now? So so the mind of the arhat is like the mirror. If you put anything in front of the mirror, you will see. If you don't put anything, nothing that can reflect inside the mirror. So the mind of the arhat is like the bright mirror. So when the first semester have the thought of seeing or watching those performance, so the arhat complain to the semester, you are the teacher. Why do how could you watch those couple of monkey performance? Not defaming the lady, but according to the Theravada tradition, monks not supposed to watch performance at all. You understand now, William? So understand, Ivan? You understand my story? The story?
Yeah, if there is no self, what is there to reflect?
Yeah. So as soon
Yeah.
as we have the thought, we will see things as the way we are. We see. As long as we have a thought like William mentioned, right? I have a thought of attaching ourselves on self, on thinking and so forth. We raise some type of karma. Let's say for common people, whichever show we see, either we like or dislike. Of course, most of the time when we go to the show, we pay for that. Of course, before going to the show, we like to see that show, and when we see the show, we pay for the price. That started from the thought. So in general, in this passage, it mentioned that the samsara or self-rebirth start with our own thought because of the thought that the our thinking. Here talk about forward thinking. We That's mean like you say, like William, we think about ourselves, we think about our food, we think about and so forth and so forth. That's why we follow that type of thinking and very good and bad karma. Whenever we do good bad karma, we revolve that cycle. But for let's say for the Zen master, when he see that, when he see the performance, right? The arhat could recognize his mind, but when he let go all of his thought, he could not read the Zen master mind. So whenever we let go of all the thought, we be free from samsara. But as much we still have the thought, those thoughts will lead us to the cycle of the birth because we act out, we talk out according to those thoughts. It makes sense now? Ivan, it makes sense now? Right? Yeah. Mm. What do you think, William? Is it a bit complicated, the opposite in the way that you're thinking?
No, no, I don't think it's
Mm.
complicated. This is I know we've talked about this story before too. Um I think it makes sense. I think like so in and of itself, watching a performance is neither good nor bad. The intention behind it is certainly informative,
Yeah.
but
Mm-hmm.
I think the guidelines for the monks were to really keep them very safe from risk. So
Mm.
one person, maybe you have 100 monks, 99 of them can watch a performance and there's no problem. But
Mm-hmm.
if one of them, that performance leads them to give up their vows,
Mm-hmm.
well then it seems that there's like the rule will protect, even if it's a minority of people, the rule will protect them.
Mm-hmm.
But at a certain point, for someone who sees the true nature, there's no danger. There's
Yeah.
no danger in him watching the show. He
Mm-hmm.
recognizes his true nature, and so
Yeah, that's why the patriarch say that as much we keep with a pure mind, with a pure nature, Buddha nature, there's no need to keep the precept. Remember the first time we talked, right? For them,
mhm.
their mind is so pure. But for us, as normal people, our mind is so impure, and we have so all kind of attachment. That's why it's easy for us to fall um, into the trap. That's why we need to have some kind of rules and law to keep us away from falling. But for the few people, they don't need that. Hmm. Yeah. Okay. And you follow that, Ivan? You follow now, right? Hmm. And here the last part is say that the Buddha say if you want to hear my teaching, right, you need to respond to my question straightforwardly, so that I can explain to you. Hmm. Yeah. Okay. Hmm. Okay. So let me read first, and you can take turn, right? Another, when you develop that mind because of Buddha 32 excellent characteristics, tell me, um, sorry, tell me what saw and love them. So the Buddha asks, yes, because you uh, attached to my 32 essence characteristics, you follow me to become a monk. So Buddha say, what did you see? What captains that you see? What captain that you love? Right? And so Ananda reply, one, that's me Buddha. My love came from the use of my mind. My eyes seen and my mind admiring them, so that it was set up, was set on distinguishing birth and death. So now I start a series of argument between the Buddha and Ananda. So the first thing he said was, my love came from the use of my mind. So he said the use of his mind, that's why he has love, developed that kind of love. My eyes seen. It's normal for us to say, right? My eyes, our eyes seen, and our mind admiring them. So for him, he see two things: his eyes and his mind, two separate things. His eyes function is seeing, his mind is admiring or loving. So that it was set on the Norwegian button that because of his eyes, he loved the Buddha 32 characteristics, and his mind, he admired the Buddha. That's why he followed the Buddha teaching to cultivate so that he could cut up button that to get out of the birth cycle. So he say based on his eyes to absorb and his mind to love or to admire. That's why he follow Buddha. Make sense, Ivan? Right? Okay. Yes. Yeah. Go ahead. Please, William.
The Buddha continued, as you just said, your love was caused by your mind and eyes. But if you do not know where your mind and eyes really are, you will never be able to destroy delusion. For instance, when the country is invaded by bandits, the king, before sending his soldiers to destroy them, should first know where they are. That which causes you to transmigrate without interruption comes from defects in your mind and eyes. Now tell me where your mind and eyes are.
Mm.
So, yeah, since the Buddha asked, what was it that saw my excellent marks? And so he said, my eyes saw them, my mind saw them. I think, we have the benefit of time and thinking, whereas Ananda was, just in the moment with the Buddha responding right away. If he'd had time to reflect, maybe he would have said something different. But because he's even saying my mind and my eyes. So there's something else that's aware of his mind and his eyes in that sense, because he's using the word my, that the eyes belong to someone and the mind belongs to someone. So we can see like there's an error, that it didn't really hit the mark of what the Buddha was asking for. So it seems the Buddha's like going to show him the kind of illusion of his conception of the mind and the eyes. Basically, that he's kind of setting it up. He's going to ask him to tell me where they are, but then he's not really going to be able to tell him where they are, because ultimately they're interdependent. Like the eyes are a phenomena that don't exist in isolation. The mind is a phenomena that doesn't exist in isolation. It's interdependent. So I think he's just slowly, the Buddha's kind of slowly kind of unwinding this knot for Ananda in a really a really amazing way. Like, what sort of privilege to be able to have that conversation with the Buddha. That's fantastic.
Yeah. So he gives analogy like the king should know his enemy, right? Before he sent the army uh, uh, mm, mm, to Kasham for the bandit to destroy them. Yeah. Okay. Thank you. Yeah. Go ahead, Ivan. Can you read, please?
Ananda replied, "World honored one, all living uh, beings born in the world through the 10 types of birth hold that this knowing mind is in the body. As I look at the lotus blue eyes of the Buddha, I see that they are on his face. Hence, my understanding that my eyes are on my face, whereas my knowing mind is in my body."
Okay, you can stop there. So what was the argument then?
He's projecting his knowing, or kind of reaching, like William was saying, to his consciousness into his physical form
Mm-hmm.
of tying it to, you know, the body and the physical projection.
So basically he say everyone know, right? The eyes on
Yeah.
the face, right? And the mind in the body, right?
Yeah.
So he,
I
yeah. So basically
I re-
sometimes, yeah, go ahead, Ivan.
I really love where the Buddha takes this to with the hall in this next part of the conversation. It's one of my favorite passages in this so far.
So sometimes we want to claim something, but we say, oh, we generalize something. Oh, people say that. That's why I say that, right? People believe that. That's why I say that. So here I say that
Or
everyone know the eyes on the face and the mind in the body.
yeah, or I see it on you, so thus it must be true for me. I see
Mm.
your eyes are on your face, so my eyes must be on my face.
Yeah. Okay. So this the next conversation or argument. The Buddha asked, now, as you sit in the hall, where do you see Jakarta Park? So he just asked a simple question. Where you want to see that park? Ananda replied, well, only once this red hole is in Jetavana Park, which is therefore outside of the hole. Uh, so basically, he replied that. Uh, so the Buddha asked, now you see this hole, where you see the Jeta Park. So he's replied that this hole is inside, right? Inside the Jetavana Park. But this park is outside the hole. It's understandable, right? So the hole, he sits inside the hole and the park is outside. This is understandable. Yeah. Yeah, go ahead, please, William.
Okay. um, the Buddha asked, what do you see first in this hall? Ananda replied, world honored one, in this hall, I see first the Tathagata, then the assembly, and only when looking outside do I see the park. So it seems to me that this is an analogy kind of similar to how one could see their body. Perhaps the hall is the analogy for the body, and the windows are like the eyes, and the park is like kind of, but within, there's it's like the Buddha nature, the Buddha nature within. But it seems the Buddha's setting things up to help Ananda better understand a better conceptualization, a better way of understanding the role of the eyes in the mind.
So he say, right? First, he see Buddha. Second, the assembly, that means people around the Buddha. And after that, he could look outside the hole, right, to see the park. So he could explain in the way that we see in step by step from inside out, right? Yeah, like you say, the Buddha set up this condition so that he can explain. Yeah, Ivan, please.
I'm sorry, I lost my space.
Yeah,
Where
the
were
Buddha
we?
asked. The Buddha asked.
The Buddha asked, when you see the park, what causes you to do so? Ananda replied, it is because the doors and windows are open that I, through sitting in this hall, see the park outside.
Okay.
Buddha's asking, what allows you to see or perceive what's beyond your current reality? Is it the open doors, or is it your openness to receive what is beyond? Ananda's replying, in a physical context, it's the doors, it's the windows. But yeah.
So when the Buddha asked what caused that he could see the park, right? So and then I just same get explained in the simple way. Oh, when the door and window open, I can see the park outside through this window. Even I sit in this hall. It's normal, right? It's just uh, the normal conversation. Yeah. So the next one, the Buddha then extended his golden full arms and touched Ananda head with his hand, saying, "This is a samadhi called the all-embracing supreme Suragama and the gateway which all Buddhas in direction attain to the wonderful majestic path. Ananda, listen now attentively." So again, the Buddha asked a series question about what he saw in the whole the park and so forth. But he said, "Okay, be ready. I will explain to you the wonderful teaching. You have to be sincere. That this kind of teaching is so important. That's uh, or Buddha in the past, present, future, in the generation explain this couple of important teaching. Okay, the next one here. Yeah, go ahead, please, William.
Ananda prostrated himself at the Buddha's feet and knelt to receive the holy instruction. The Buddha said, "If you are right that while sitting in this hall, you see the park outside through the open doors and windows, it would be possible for someone sitting here to see only things outside without seeing the Buddha, or would it be possible for someone sitting here to see only things outside without seeing the Buddha within?" So Ananda bowed as a symbol of his openness and desire to receive these instructions. And the Buddha asks if it'd be possible to only see outside without seeing the Buddha if people were sitting in the hall. So again, just kind of further going in to kind of elucidate where Ananda's wrong thinking is.
Okay.
I do have one question. I forget, what is the meaning of Surangama? How does that translate?
Oh, Suragama. Oh, okay, I see. Okay. The meaning is that this is the Sanskrit word. Let me type to you. Let me make copy. It means the foremost teaching, the formal teaching of all Buddhas. Let me stop sharing. Let me go back here. And actually, at the beginning, it has the explanation, the long explanation. Let me type here. Okay, let me share with you the screen here. Here, it said that the it's not know the mean root value, August or March. That's what it mean. But it's pretty long. It is long prescription of what's meant by Suragama. Right here, you see that pretty long. Okay, the title here. The Sutra of the foremost Suragama at the great Buddha submit concern the Tathaga's secret course of cultivation, is certification to the complete meanings and Bodhisattva merit practice. Now that's the
Wow.
whole. That's just the whole sentence. That's the whole translation of this sentence in Chinese, from Chinese into English. Of course, they translate from Sanskrit into Chinese and then from Chinese into English. That's the whole sentence here. That's what it means. The Suragama Sutra is about. Yeah, from time to time we continue. Yes. Ivan, you follow?
Just yeah,
Yeah,
I do follow.
yeah,
Stemming off of this in, I guess, timeline progression,
yeah.
the like Suragama Sutra would have predated some of these other great texts like the Tao Te Chings or
Mm.
just a question, curious.
Yeah, that's the whole sentence here in Chinese. If you understand Chinese, you will understand the deeper meaning, but they have this kind of translation here. It's still long, like William.
Yeah, it's a long sutra name.
But that's why they some of them they say read March Sutra. They just make it short. The scripture of the Herod podcast. They just make it short. But the
Yeah,
whole meaning of this is like this one.
yeah.
Okay. Yeah, let's just move back here. Mm, so let's so he just asked, or is that possible to see outside but can I see inside? No, so that's his question, right? So the next
Hmm.
one here. Another reply, one cannot see the growth and the stream outside without seeing the Buddha, right? We cannot see out there without seeing things inside, right? It's logical, right? Yeah. Yeah, go ahead, please. Is that Ivan, right? Ivan?
The Buddha said, Ananda, it is the same with you. If your mind is not deluded, it will be clear about all this. However, if your knowing mind was really in your body, you should first be clear about everything inside it. You should therefore see everything in your body before seeing things outside it. Even if you can't see your heart, liver, spleen, and stomach, at least you should be clear about your growing nails and hair, about that which moves along the nerves and the pulses of your veins. Why are you not clear about all this? If you do not see things within, how can you see those outside? Therefore, your contention that your knowing mind is inside your body is groundless.
Okay, you see the Buddha argument, right?
Yeah, if we are grounded inside of ourselves,
Mm-hmm.
we can see our nature, we can see our being, and we can see our Buddha nature inside. But if our intention and our power is extended external in a wanting or desire or attention even of uh, Netflix, YouTube, we are not internalizing or coming back to that center and being that center. So thus, if we can't be that center, how can we even acknowledge that which we reside in?
Okay. Yeah, William, what do you think about the passage?
Yeah. So in the analogy of Ananda sitting in the hall, it's, he can see out the window kind of at the same time he can
Hmm.
see in the room. You can focus on one or the other. But it's not like he has to see everything in the room before he can see outside. So there's my mind runs into a big logical thing I want to go through in response to this passage about, and I'm not really even sure what it is, how it would unwind, but it's that if the knowing mind was really just localized inside the body, then we would be clear about these different things. Like we would at least be clear about our growing nails and our hair. Like we would have a direct perception of that.
Hmm.
So that since we don't have that direct perception, it's not our knowing mind is not grounded in our body. And there's something about that conclusion that I want to like check. Like, does that really follow from, I guess, because I think about the subconscious mind, the autonomic nervous system, and so that's one part of the conversation that happens in my mind when I hear that. There's one other piece that is, oh yeah, that it seems to really kind of be pointing at the, so senses, right? The senses that we perceive them like they are outside of us, like that tree is out there. But I know from like learning about the brain and stuff, well, there's a nerve in my brain that if I cut that nerve, I'm not going to see anything. I'm just going to see blackness. I'm not going to be able to see that tree. So the perception of that tree is actually dependent upon something that's in here. But the tree's got to be out there too for me to see it. So I think it's beginning like to open up the way to see this interdependence. This idea of inside and outside is a very wiggly idea. That which we perceive as outside is really inside, in a sense. And that, I don't know if it really works. Well, in order for us to perceive the outside, we need certain things inside. So there's an interdependence.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, put in this simple term, the Buddha argued that if you say the mind is inside your body, but at least you should know how your nail grow, right? How I things that move along with the nerves and so forth, but you could not. So that's why your argument that the mind is inside body is wrong. So here, the idea is that the first part of this sutra start with what we call 7 arguments about the place of the pure mind. So the Buddha refute every argument that Ananda say, oh, the mind is in the body, and so forth and so forth. So that at the end, he make conclusion that you need to recognize the mind, your pure mind is not in the body, not in your head and so forth. You need to recognize that pure mind. That's why it leading to the whole idea is that, right? All right. Yeah, that's more. Yes.
Just you saying that actually cleared up that first thing I was talking about. But yeah, if the knowing mind was in the body, well, then it would be directed. If it was in the body, it would be directed towards, knowing all of the intricacies of the body. That would be like its function. And that would make sense because it was placed there. But it's much more directed externally, actually.
Or we can say here, forget that if someone get mentioned, oh, my mind is, or my thinking is on the nerve system. Is that true?
The true mind of the nervous system, I would say no, that's not true.
That's a point. That's a point he want to say in our modern term, right? Someone say, oh, my thought come from the brain activities of the nervous system working together. That's why I have the thought process. Is that right? In the biological logic.
I think relatively that's right in the sense that having thought, like thinking, but there's something more essential before that. Like, because you can just have a dead brain and there's no thinking. So there's something there's something more primary than that, but we also need the nervous system intact in order to see, to think. But it's not the only thing that's needed.
I will find out that video clip again. This one professor from US Houston, sorry, from US Blueview. He did some kind of research and using the MRI to recognize us, even someone who are pronounced dead, somehow the brain still active. By the way, the point I want to mention is that is our thinking depend on the nervous system only or beyond that?
Yeah, like if we say there's thinking like the Bardo body can think, then I'd say, yeah, I mean, then I don't, my understanding is it doesn't think the same way as we think here. The nervous system clearly arises, it arises because of causes and conditions. And there's this consciousness that it's associated with has appropriate karma. And then there is this pure nature, this nature of that, like what, is the essence of all things. But kind of like, a flower's smell is a function of certain parts of the flower. I do think like our like thinking is an expression. We need like seeing, we need the eyes to see things. I mean, we can see blackness without the eyes. There's still the seeing nature is present, but without the eyes, we can't see. So the mind, I totally believe the mind is still present without thinking. And the mind doesn't, like the pure mind doesn't depend upon thinking. But I think clear, like logical thinking depends upon certain parts of our nervous system being intact. So I in Peru, I had this experience where I had that delirium for 5 days. I was aware and I could remember everything from, I mean, times passed, so I forget some things, but I was aware during the whole process, but my thinking was totally broken. Like I couldn't, it was like trying to start a car that wouldn't start. It was like looking in a mirror that was just fractured and you couldn't really see, what was happening. And so it seems that the clarity of thinking, the stability of thinking is dependent upon like natural physiologic function. There still was thought though. It was just ridiculous. It made no sense. It was like grasping and desperate and erratic and terrible. So yeah, does that?
Yeah. How about you, Ivan? What do you think about this? Uh, so physically, right? We have the thought process depend upon our nervous system, right? That's common sense, right? In biological way, our explanation. What do you think, Ivan?
I guess the best way I can think about it or look at it is I read this section and then I lived this week of offsite work. and bouncing in between what William's saying and I guess what the story's saying, you know, of I've worked 62, 67 hours last week, high cortisol levels, high blood pressure, not internally checking, meditating, Tai Chi. All my systems fell apart, living in a hotel room, looking at feng shui, my head of my bed in the hotel room's pointed towards the bathroom, a water element. And bad feng shui, I'm living with the fan blowing on me all night, bad chi, you know, like things that, you know, ultimately kind of poison my dantian, poison my chi, poison my nervous system. But yet, if I had been doing the things and conscious of my systems, what could I have done to change those things, right? And like this idea of Buddha mind too, of like if you can see yourself, then you can see the world around you too. I think Buddha also teaches in another one of his sermons that the external world is a reflection of the internal. It's kind of that same statement too, of if you aren't seeing your internal and aren't willing to see the Buddha mind, you are circumstances, you are subject to the external circumstances. So if it is raining outside and you are not and you're ignorant of the temple within, you will get wet. If it is fire outside because you're working all the time, you will burn inside. You know, that temple is there so you can be.
Yeah. So let me have a question. Of course, we know that if someone blind, they can use their ear to hear. But let's say if someone have deaf brain, but every function of their body is still working. That means they live in coma, right? So do they still hear? Do they still recognize things? Or they stay in that kind of blanket, or that kind of blank things? Doesn't mean that they don't recognize things. And I think there's some stories say that someone woke up from the coma situation. They still could remember sometime when they were in that coma, right? William, you know that story, right? You familiar with that, right?
I've heard about it for anesthesia.
Yeah.
Like people under anesthesia will be able to say what was happening around them. I'm surprised I've never really thought about it for comas. I don't remember discussing that on this call either.
I encountered several cases that I went to do the prayer for the people who were in coma. And in Buddhist view, even the doctor pronounced them that their brain was dead, but they still, in Buddhist view, they still have some kind of knowing there. Well, anyway, let's see here. Probably I may keep this story for the next one then. That's a true story. Yeah, we have only 1 minute. But my point is that in Buddhist view, even when someone were in coma, they still have some kind of knowing. That means that their brain is so dysfunction. That means their brain is dead. When the Buddhist view, as much they live, they still are alive. They have some kind of awareness there. You have not heard about this, William?
I haven't read about anybody's reports, but I think that really matches with my experience when my ability to direct my thinking and to have have normal thought was absent, but my awareness of what was happening was intact. But I couldn't necessarily at one point I I had the thought, I can climb this fence with the barbed wire on top, and yeah, it's gonna cut my arms, but my arms will heal immediately and I'll be fine. I thought like I would just, that I would just heal immediately, I'd be fine. But a bigger part of myself didn't believe that. It was like, no, like a deep, like visceral part that wasn't even a thought. It was just basically the conclusion, don't do that. So I think that essence of awareness, and for me, even a lot of some of these protective functions of like maybe subconscious mind were still there completely. That the essence of it didn't change at all. The ability to be aware of what was happening feels just the same as my ability to be aware now. It was just what I was aware of changed. Like my thought was clearly like, it just showed me it's not as stable as I thought it was, meaning that thought in general is not, that it can, under certain circumstances, it can be subject to these sort of these disturbances, but that it didn't touch the awareness at all. It really matches what the Suragama says about the essence of awareness. Like a blind person still sees darkness. Yeah.
But that's why I don't know, in Western medicine, Western medical field. So whenever someone have a dead brain, just mean they must die, right? They don't have any kind of awareness, right? In Western medicine, Western medical field, is that right?
I think a lot of doctors would conclude that. I think there'd be a good number of open-minded doctors that would acknowledge that we don't know. That we don't know what that person's experience is in that moment.
Okay.
I would certainly tend to think that they're still alive, something's happening. There's some sort of experience there.
Yeah, that's why. That's when Buddhists feel as much as the body is still alive, whether we have the brain dead or not, our awareness still there. Like that you mentioned about your awareness, right? Yeah. How are you, Ivan? What do you think?
I'm enjoying the conversation. It's if the body is attached to the consciousness in a direct way, so thus what the body learns in a muscle memory or sensory thing is directly interfacing with the consciousness or mental state. And yeah.
So William, do they do a lot of research about that? Someone have that brain dead, but they're still alive. Does they still have some kind of awareness?
I haven't looked into any other research about that. I'm kind of surprised I haven't wondered about, what if people who've come out of comas, what do they say? And
In your case, right? You say that in your case, right?
Yeah, I wasn't in a coma, but I did get to experience a totally different mind state that it's really hard. I mean, it's I don't think I can really even fully remember how it was because it was so different. I just I remember I remember the thoughts, I remember the actions I took, but like to really remember how it felt, I think I remember like a shadow of it. It felt, oh God, it was so terrible. It was like, it felt like I was in hell. Yeah. And there was no way out. I was,
Okay, so let's just, Ivan, you want to say anything before we end?
Yeah, I have no further questions.
Okay, how about we stop here today then? Okay, and next week I will tell you a real story that happened to me and other people that relate to the brain death. Right. All right. So thank you. So see you then.
thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye. Bye.